Hey everybody, how's it going? So for this video, it's going to be a different angle. Sorry, I'm having to do it off the iPad. For whatever reason, the last video I did, my phone is messed up. It's dying, I guess, or trying to die. So sorry if this kind of slides around a bit. I don't really have a mount for this, so I've got it rested against a bottle. It's in my cup holder on the console in this truck. So I'm going to try and hold this a little bit and try to keep it from sliding around so much. Anyway, last video, the sound quality was bad. I'm not going to make this one as long as I did the last one. I'm going to try not to anyway. The last one was titled Plans Part 1. And I'm just going to kind of touch on a few things I said in that video. So for those of you that don't want to have to listen to it sounding like I'm trying to talk through a sock, then by all means, please watch this one. So, in the last video I said that I was going to be doing this as a car channel, and that's pretty much so what it's going to be. It's going to be kind of a car channel, a culmination of things, a little bit of personal life, things like that. I'm also going to do several of these videos for plans and talk about different things. Right now, my two number one goals are to get my, sorry about that, there was a truck there, I didn't know what they were doing, get the 1966 Chevy C10 that I've got back out, get it, make sure that it's good to go, and drive it a little bit. Granted, it's hard to drive it in the middle of the summer because it's hot. That truck has a 350 V8 in it. It's a natural heater. There's no air conditioning in it. You know, you're talking about a time when air conditioning was an extra cost option, whereas today, most of our cars, if we don't have air conditioner, we're freaking out. Really, even back then, a true heater was an extra cost option. And what I mean by that is, back then, heaters were pretty much, for the most part, just a blower motor attached to a fan speed knob or lever. They were actually like a slide type lever that they pretty much, so that's all that was. Well, this truck doesn't have either or. It's got these little vents down in the fender well, and I'll showcase that truck on this channel a little bit too. Actually, it'll probably become about the main focal point because I have some goals that I want to meet with that truck, but that's one of my plans. My other plan is within, I'm hoping, the next month, maybe two, to get a another car, like an actual car, cash car of some form, something, $1,000 or less, that I can drive around, maybe put a little work back into, like doing tune-ups, fresh fluids, things like that, and then turn around, and if I decide to sell it, in a year or whatever, sell it, and then the preceding goal is to eventually get another Ford Crown Victoria. I said in the last video that was of potato quality, at least vocally, that I had a 2006 Ford Crown Victoria. Missed that car, kind of regret giving it up, but for right now, in the very first video, I think I had made mention that I was going to start saving up for one, and I had a goal to try to do it by my birthday, and I sat down and kind of did the math, and I could do it, but that would require me practically not living. I mean, that would require me having money to pay whatever, phone bill or whatever, and then not do anything else. No gas, no food, no nothing. If there's something else I need, so I don't want to do that. I will start saving up for that, but that will probably come around in the spring, depending on, it'll be either spring or this time next summer if I go forward on that. But for now, it's going to be like a cash car to the, $1,000 or less. I've got my eyes on a few things. There's a 96 Oldsmobile Sierra. It's actually called a Cutlass Sierra, but 96. They were just referred to it as the Sierra, that I found on Facebook for sale for like $700. I don't know if it's still for sale or not, actually, because I got to looking. They've updated the app, and it actually now tells you how long those have been posted, whereas before it didn't. And that thing's been posted for about 6 months. So I don't know if that car is actually still there or not. And his ad says it needs, the 2 front windows won't roll up, and the doors are sticky, which that, for those of you that are familiar with cars that A-body GM, their doors are notorious for being sticky, or in essence kind of falling off track. They don't necessarily fall off, they just they become difficult to open after a while. But I've also got my eyes on a couple of Buick Centuries. One's a 93 and I think the other's a 94. And then actually last night I was looking on Facebook and I found one for $700. That was a 1985 Pontiac 6000. And for those of you that are wondering what a Pontiac 6000 is, it's in essence a early Buick Century, Oldsmobile Sierra, and Chevrolet Celebrity. Those were the 4 siblings. The Pontiac 6000 was produced from 1981, starting with the 1982 year model, through 1991, ending with the 91 year model. So year model wise, it only produced 9 years, but in totality, it was produced a full decade. There were hundreds of thousands of these actually produced over that 10 years, but you don't see very many of them today. I went on Auto Trader earlier just to kind of prove my point, and anybody can go on there and do that after they watch this video and just look up Pontiac 6000, put within any distance of whatever your local zip code is. You will not find a single one for sale right now. This one I came across, the dealership's website says $700. They've got it, or $900 actually on the dealership site, but they've got it listed on Craigslist for $700. It's got quite a few miles on it, and it needs a little bit of love as far as cleaning goes. I mean, the interior's relatively worn. The outside, it's white exterior. It's got like the road grime mold in essence that paint collects over time. But the Pontiac 6000 was kind of a mid car, if you will. It fell between the Pontiac Phoenix and the Pontiac Bonneville of the 80s when it replaced the Le Mans Pontiac. It was a vastly popular Pontiac. There were a few different motor options, including one that was sourced from Oldsmobile itself. And the cars are pretty bulletproof. I'm in a couple of car groups on Facebook, and one of them, I've had some mixed reviews. Some people say that they're crap. Some people say all A-bodies are crap. A lot of people do not like the A-body cars. I personally like them. My reason for that is I am not necessarily your typical car guy. Yes, I like Mustangs. Yes, I like Corvettes. My dream sports car is a Corvette or a Bullitt Mustang. Go figure. Anyway, yes, I love Ferrari, Bugatti, Porsche, and I do love BMWs and Mercedes. I don't find some of those practical, even though I would give anything to own something like a Porsche or a BMW or a Mercedes. I don't find them practical for where I live because there's nobody here that works on them. And if you can get an early enough one that's still pretty much so mechanical, they're pretty easy to work on. I mean, there's nothing computerized about them, whereas, mid-90s on up, everything started going computerized. Well, the thing about this, about these A-bodies is they're not a quote-unquote loved car. I'm the kind of person that likes old, kind of neglected, rejected models that people complain about, models that people say are trash. And my ultimate goal, whether I bought that Oldsmobile if it was still available, or that Pontiac, and I'm really falling in love with that Pontiac just because it's so quirky looking. And the Buick Centuries of the A-body era, and really even the Chevy Celebrity. But the reason I like those cars, and the reason I would like to get a hold of one, is because even though they're not a highly sought after model, eventually there won't be any, or there won't be many. I mean, these are cars that people are buying for their 16-year-old kids right now for, less than $1,000, like I'm looking into, and the kids are trashing them, and then when they're done with them, they're sending them on to the scrapyard. I mean, they're not worth anything. They're only worth, scrap value. And truth be told, right now, with the way the value is, they're only worth scrap value. I mean, I valued the 93 Buick just to see if it fell in within the value range. And for a 93 Buick with 187,000 miles in the custom, which is the more or less base trim of the Buicks, it was worth about, I think on the top end, right around 900, maybe 1,000 at most, but I think it's like closer to 900, and that is asked 800 on. Now, granted, I wouldn't go in at 800. I would make him, some kind of an offer on it because, the mileage, which really all three of these cars that I've looked at have over 100,000 miles. The lowest mileage one is that Oldsmobile. The other three have well over 150,000 miles. The 94 Buick has over 200, actually, just over 200. But it looks pretty much so pristine, other than a little clear coat peeling up on the front clip. And then the Pontiac is just below 200. And other than needing some cleaning and a little bit of interior refreshing, it looks to be in overall good shape. There's one dent in the rear bumper that you can see in the pictures. Otherwise, it looks to be in pretty much so immaculate shape. But otherwise, it's going to be one of those I'm going to have to look at them and figure out what I like the best. Now, if the Pontiac's as good as I think it is, that one has kind of won me over. Just because I don't see very many Pontiac 6000s. I think the last running drivable 6000 I saw was probably back about 10 years ago. And the last 6000 that I saw in person was in a salvage yard. Well, I'll take that back. The actual last one I saw was sitting in somebody's yard, and it had obviously been there for a while because it had grass growing up through the hood, through the sides of the hood. So, that tells me that car has sat for a long time. And I know I said this video wasn't going to be very long, but I don't care at this point. I want to talk. So, as far as the Pontiac 6000, I've probably seen maybe about a dozen of them in my life. At the most, a dozen of them. There are not very many of them that I have seen out there. But everybody says, oh, the A-body is the most common car out there. Yes, the A-body is. And yes, there were a lot of those Pontiacs produced. I don't see them. I don't hardly see them at all. But that's also kind of the same thing that I'm getting at. The A-body cars will someday, now I'm not saying right now, it could be 20, 30 years down the road, those cars could possibly be about as worth as much as your 60s era Mopar, your 50s Chevys, things like that, because they're so uncommon anymore. And they'll just become more and more uncommon as the decades go on. There will be less and less and less and less available to purchase. And so eventually, there won't be anything at all. But my goal, as I started to say with any of these cars, is I want to buy one, clean it up, put a little love back into it, do like a light restoration on it, daily drive it, have something that has a smaller fuel tank for a daily. My C10 has a smaller fuel tank than this truck. This truck that I'm in right now, that you see in the background here, has a 26-gallon fuel tank, and here I am driving. But, payday's Friday, so I don't care right now. I'll have a little bit of money to put gas in it. The C10 has a 17-gallon fuel tank, but it is a carbureted 350 V8. It does not do bad on fuel. I daily drove it for quite some time. Surprisingly, for a carbureted V8 with a Edelbrock carb on it, it does not do that bad. But I don't know how well it does, because the fuel gauge bounces around a lot once the tank reaches a certain level. Usually once it reaches about half the tank, that needle starts flopping. Because the tanks in those trucks, for those of you that aren't aware, instead of in a normal car where the tanks lay flat, the tank in that is like that inside the cab. That will get moved eventually, but that's another video to talk about. So anyway, my ultimate goal there, or for the moment I should say, is within the next, I would really like to within the next month, but I'm hoping at least within the next 2 months to be in something a little bit more fuel, not necessarily perfectly fuel efficient. You know, I'm not looking to get 50 miles to a gallon. I mean, if I was going to do that, I would try and go buy a Toyota Prius, but I'm not in a position to finance anything right now. I've got some things that I've got to get dialed in on my credit report. Then I'll be able to do that. Hopefully, anyway. But, excuse the bumps, I'm driving down a back road here anyway. My hope is, like I said, to get something to daily drive, clean it up, and make it look nice. You know, make it look like the cleanest car out there. The A-body is my love, which I love GM. I love the GMB bodies and D bodies. I love the C-body GMs as well. I've got a dog in the road here. Hopefully he stays off to the side of me. Okay. That dog belongs to that house back there and is always out in the road. Go figure. Anyway, my hope, as I've said, I think this is like the 4th or 5th time I've said that phrase, is to get something, clean it up, make it look good, and just kind of show the world, just because, or show the car world, I should say, just because you don't like it doesn't mean it can't be a nice car. Even the GM B-body and D-body cars, the Cadillac Fleetwood, which is technically considered a D-body, but it's also a B-body car. The Caprice, the Buick Roadmaster, those all, a lot of people love them. There's a huge cult following for those cars. But the A-bodies, there's really nothing out there. There's some similar body-styled Chrysler products, such as the, what is it? I think it's the Dodge Diplomat, maybe. The Chrysler New Yorker. One of them made a car called the Dynasty. I forget which one that was. Ford's got something kind of similar from that era. The real early on Ford Taurus, the first generation Ford Taurus. Those just are not that loved. A lot of people hate them. They think they're ugly. They think they're just crappy cars. But truth be told, and it's funny because people say, oh, well, you know, that's just such a crappy car because it's an A-body or because it's not their favorite car. There are a lot of cars out there that I really don't like, or that I don't think need to have been built. The Chevy Aveo, I don't think that needed to exist. I mean, quite truthfully, I think that's probably just about one of the crappiest cars on the market. It's a disposable car. Same thing with the Chevy Cavalier. But I like the Cavalier. I just don't like the Aveo. I think it's kind of ugly looking. But its replacement, the Chevy Sonic, I like. But in that same token, I respect that it's a car. I respect that they're cars. And what I want everybody to really kind of realize is You don't have to like the car. But if there's somebody out there that does, don't just go up to them and say, oh, you have a crappy car. You don't like that car. I don't like that car because, it's this, it's that. A car is as good as the care you show it. If you go and buy a brand new Toyota Camry right now, and you take care of it, you keep it clean, you keep up on the routine maintenance, and maybe even go above and beyond. Maybe you're somebody that's anal about the maintenance on it, and you do every single thing. You follow the owner's manual to the T. Then that car will last you forever. I mean, it literally will last you forever. And a car that is crap is a lot of times because somebody in its ownership did not take care of it, or did not take the proper care of it. And if you go and buy a car that looks crappy, or maybe runs crappy, it could be a simple fix as to why some of these cars run crappy. It could be something just as simple as it needs a tune-up, a fuel system treatment, and some fresh fluids, and it's good to go. Or it could be something like it needs a head gasket, it's got, a water pump out, it's got a vacuum leak because of the water pump leaking. I mean, it needs CV axles up front, it needs a ball joint, wheel bearing, needs a transmission. It's only as good as the person that took care of it. And if a person took real good care of it, then it's gonna last. But if you get it and it runs like crap, and you actually sink a little money back into it, clean it up, make it look good, make it run right, get everything dialed in that needs to be dialed in, you can easily get another 100,000 miles out of a car that's got 197,000 miles on it without batting an eye. You can get another 197,000 miles out of a car with 197,000 miles. I mean, it's all about how good a care you take of your vehicle and how long you choose to keep it. Someone might buy a car with 170,000 miles on it and only keep it 100,000 miles. Or maybe only keep it 2 years, whatever mileage 2 years would equate to. Me, I would kind of like to, say, get a hold of one of those A-body GM cars that I've looked at, that I've got my eyes on, and hold on to it for a long time. Just simply because I like the GM A-bodies. But that's me. I also like the Ford Panther platform cars. But, rambling aside, and I keep going back on those subjects, those are my plans. Anybody that chooses to watch this video because it's longer, I apologize profusely. I'm long-winded, and I will sit here and talk about this stuff till I'm blue in the face, till the cows come home, till I'm out here chasing cows on a back county road. I mean, go figure. But in all context of reality, those are my plans. As I said, I'm hoping within the next month to have one of those cars, or have something different. But one of those cars is really what I'm aiming for, and hopefully I can make something happen when I do. That car will also be featured on this video, a before of probably when I bought it, and an after of when I've gotten it cleaned up, and as cleaned up as I can get it. Just simply because the one Buick, it's kind of got some peeled off clear coat, so I don't know how great it would actually look after a real good deep cleaning, and it might look just fine. I could be wrong, and it could just be the car's that filthy. Just have to see. But I'm going to end this here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with me, and hopefully soon we'll be showcasing more cars. So until next time, have fun, be safe, and I think that's about it. Adios.